Inside Carolina Live coming at you. Appreciate you being a part of the show today. Hour number two. And Tommy, this is the first time that we have talked to our good friend Jawad Williams since he switched over to the other side now, and he's officially Coach Wad. Jawad Williams joins us from Japan, and we appreciate him making time for us here on a Saturday morning. Jawad, first things first, how's coaching life?
I'm loving it, man. Coaching, I'm loving it. There hasn't been a day that I've woke up and said I didn't really want to do this. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it a lot.
I think we knew that was kind of the next evolution of your career after you retired after what 15 15
17,
years 17 years
17.
playing. I mean, and only one of those was when you had to deal with an injury. It blows my mind how long you were able to play at such a high level, and now the next logical segue is that you're coaching, and just it's awesome to see. But appreciate you making time for us on a Saturday morning, and it was important for us to talk to you today about this Carolina basketball team because your intro to UNC was on one of the most I guess one of the notorious for the wrong reasons rosters, and the fact that you guys went 8-20, and right now we're seeing a Tar Heel squad that is just mired in its own and can't get out of its own way. The first thing I want to ask you is, did you see this coming from this squad?
Honestly, I did not. I think the expectations were very high, especially after last season. Never expected them to be in this situation. But it is what it is at this point. You got to see how it plays out.
So when you're facing the longest odds and the most adversity that you can imagine, again, I don't think this team saw it coming either. What do you do on a daily basis to get yourself up to come to practice and try to get better? How do you approach that?
First of all, you continue to work hard. You continue to work at the things and control what you can control. Uh, for that, if that was the situation and guys were having a hard time getting up, imagine being on the 8-20 team. So I wouldn't understand that personally. You're still in a pretty good. You're not in a terrible situation, not in the situation you wanted to be, but you're still in a pretty good situation where you can kind of control your destiny for the rest of the season.
When you look at this roster, and we talked about it a lot on these podcasts and on this Inside Carolina Live show, I mean, these guys should be better than they are, and they've played together forever. From a guy that's been on the court, that's been in the arena, what have you seen that keeps it from not working? I mean, obviously, everybody points to Brady Manick, and I agree. He was very good for this team, but it's not just Brady Manick's absence. Jawad, what are you seeing from afar that just shows you this isn't it? This is not getting it. Is it even explainable?
It's kind of hard to explain. Like you said, it's not just Brady Manick. There looks like there's a disconnect between each other. Um, at the end of the day, when you're on the team, you got to learn how to play for each other. And if you can't play for each other, you're going to be a long season. And I feel like that's where they are right now. It's like they're still trying to figure things out. And like I said, it shouldn't be at that point, being that they've been together for so long.
When you look at Hubert Davis and how he's tried to manage this, obviously still new. I mean, he's a year and a half, year and 2/3 of a year in. It looks like he's still trying to figure out his way as well. He certainly has ideas, and he's very strongly motivated by the way he thinks things should be. Okay, you're Coach Wad now, and you
Mm-hmm.
see some of these things. Is there anything you see that maybe Coach Davis could have done differently leading up to this point? Obviously, people talk about play the bench, play the bench. The bench is the greatest motivator and all. In your mind, watching it, what have you seen in that regard?
Oh man, that's tough. With this team, I think there's a lack of accountability. Everybody wants the bench to be played. I understand that. But we don't know what they're doing behind closed doors. We don't know how bad they actually look in practice, if that's the case. Uh, but the one thing you're going to have to do, and we talked about this last year, is play the bench because you have to see what they're capable of. In extended minutes. If you go out there, you give a guy 3 minutes and he has two mistakes in 3 minutes. I understand from a coach's aspect, can you trust them to put them in for 10 minutes? But at some point, you have to let them see what they can do, let them explore. But at this point in time, I think it's a little too late for that. That should have happened early in the season.
Talking with Jawad Williams, now coach, but also a member of the 2005 national championship team. And Jawad dealt with some adversity when he was at UNC, and he's sharing his kind of unique insight with us today. Jawad, what are some potential things that guys can do? You talked about getting back to work. What are some potential things that guys can individually do when you're stuck in a situation like this where the proverbial back is against the wall, right? They have to kind of, depending on who you talk to, win out to have a chance at making the tournament now. What are individual things that guys can do, whether it's off the court or in the gym, to just hold themselves accountable and keep grinding? Is there anything that you can do differently this late in the season?
First of all, you got to look yourself in the mirror and be honest about what you see. If you can't look yourself in the mirror and say, hey, I need to do this better, then it's going to be a long year. That's where it starts. And then after that, you just got to get back in the gym, get back to doing what made you fall in love with the game. Once you fall in love with the game again, then things become a lot easier.
I want you to take us back to your situations. Where were some things where you felt like, man, this is kind of hopeless? Share with us where you felt like, we're not living up to those things, and what were the conversations that you were having in your head, and what were the conversations you were having with your teammates that kind of helped you guys just continue to grind and continue to come back and continue to work on the things that you knew you could eventually get to click?
Well, I remember facing that mindset of I'm going to transfer. That was the first thing. Then I looked myself in the mirror and tested my own character. Like what would I do? Would I run? Which has never been in my character. So I X'd that out. So now it's what do I do after that? Now that I know I'm going to stay here, what am I going to do? So my next step was getting the gym. And thank God I had two strong-minded guys right next to me, and Jackie and Melvin, who were able to get in the gym with me. And we shared that same mindset. Like, all right, we almost sank this ship. Now let's stay here long enough so we can right this wrong. And it worked out for us.
How much does coaching matter in these situations? And I don't mean X's and O's. I mean, how much does coaching, because you've heard Hubert Davis talk about how he has the guys come by and visit him just to talk. And he places a lot of value on building relationships with these guys, as most coaches do, but he does in his own way. How much does coaching and kind of a connection with these players matter with what's happening on the court? And what can be done differently maybe to fix that?
It's like you said, it's bigger than X's and O's. You got to find a way to push guys' buttons in the right way. Like for myself, I lead with love, but I'm brutally honest with my guys, the guys that I coach now. I'm brutally honest. I don't hold anything back. And I tell them, it's a two-way street. You could be brutally honest with me. If you don't feel like I'm making you better, tell me what helps you. Let's have these open conversations and we can both help each other grow. And I think that's something that could be missing right now. Sometimes you just got to let guys know what it is. And whether they like it or not, it's better to be respected than liked that sometimes. All the time, in my book. Always better to be respected than liked.
That's a great way to sort of get into it a little bit with Hubert. I think when he came in, and I'm not saying this is accurate, but a lot of people said he might be too nice. And obviously last year he wanted to win and win immediately. And he wanted to make sure his guys, I mean, if you're a guard on this team, there's never been another Carolina guard in history of Carolina basketball that's got the freedom that RJ and Caleb have on this team. So put yourself in those coaching shoes, being brutally honest with what you've seen with a guy like, Pete Nance, who's played a ton of basketball, just a ton. Armando Bacot's the face of the program virtually. Has he improved? What has he done to improve himself? A lot of people say he deserves to be in the rafters, but he's been a part of these teams that have struggled. Just sort of take us there in your mind, your coaching mind now, and with your experience when you were at Carolina, because I have no doubt that you got a lot of tough love when you were at UNC from a variety of ways. What do you see here? Maybe that could, I'm not trying to second guess Hubert Davis at all, because he's got to do it like he wants to do it, but how do you gain that respect from a bunch like we've seen the last 3 years on this roster?
Starting from the guard aspect, you have to sit them down and show them numbers. The numbers don't lie. Show them what they're doing from a percentage standpoint. Point out exactly what they need to be doing. Sometimes I said this before, Caleb gets a lot of love and he also gets a lot of hate because of some of the shots he takes. But at the same time, we have to live with that because he's carried us at times. And, at Carolina, it's always been the next man up. So if you bench Caleb, who's the next man up? I don't think we have that. And I think, maybe they're missing some depth in the roster or whatever, but, that's one thing. Just for Caleb, for example, with Pete Nance, I think we put unfair expectations on him. Being that he was coming in after Brady was leaving, we had this whole, is another transfer savior out there, and it just didn't happen. Pete Nance is not who we thought he was. Meaning, we thought we were getting this stretch four. Carolina fans thought we were getting this stretch four, and I think we talked about this before. Pete Nance is not a stretch four. He's a 5-man. He's a stretch 5. He's a 5 he can shoot. And in my mind, he would be a guy that you would come in off the bench for Armando, but he's capable of stretching the floor. Just based on his numbers, he's shooting about three-pointers per game. Those are not stretch 4 numbers by any means. Stretch 4 numbers are 5 to 7 threes per game. There's a small sample size. People say, well, he shot 45% from 3 last year on 3 attempts per game. That doesn't add up to me. Being that stretch 4 that I was my entire career, I was shooting 5 to 7 threes per game. On a hot night, it might get up to 11 or 12. That's just not who he is. It's not his character, and we put unfair expectations on him. With that being said, we also have some young guys who need to develop very fast. I think Jalen Washington is very talented. I think he's more in that stretch 4 mode than anybody else on the roster. And if he develops and they use him a little bit more for the remainder of the season, it could be special for these guys. They could go on another run.
How difficult is it for a coach to be brutally honest with his guys, especially a new coach? You're a new coach. How hard is that? Roy Williams could do it. The guys that have been around forever that have some weight behind them can do it. How difficult you think that is for Coach Davis?
I don't think it's difficult at all. Just based off my experience so far, I told my guys from day one, I'm going to be brutally honest with you, and I'm never going to ask you to do anything that I didn't have to do throughout my career. And, Coach HD has that. He has the resume to back what he says. So if he tells you to do something or asks you to do something, I'm pretty sure he had to do it at some point in his career. So it's not hard at all.
What you got, Joey?
Jawad, you were kind of heading there a second ago when we were talking about expectations around Pete Nance. I want to talk about expectations for this squad in general. Is there any chance that these guys may have just read their own clippings, or is it just part of their DNA? I mean, did these guys, we've seen them say after last year that, we were 1 rebound away. All of the guys, when they made their announcements to come back, said, we're coming back to finish the job. I'm not going to get into whether or not these guys are actually doing anything on their own differently to get over that hump. But is there a chance these guys actually probably were feeling themselves a little much when they came back? Do you think there's any, to use your old Roy Williams quote, do you think these guys got fat and happy?
Yeah, I believe so. Everybody, I'm coming, like you said, coming back to finish the job. You forget, you almost didn't make the tournament last year. You forget you made it to the championship game, off of just getting hot at the right time. And then people just, this whole redemption thing. People, you forget how long of a road it is to get back to the championship game, to get back to the NCAA tournament, period. There's a lot that goes on beginning from preseason to NCAA tournament time. There's a lot of work to be done, a lot of ups and downs between then. And I think the guys forgot about that part. I thought they figured they would just walk on the court and end up back in the championship game again. And you see where it's gotten them so far.
All right. You've done a great job. We're talking with Jawad Williams all the way from the land of the rising sun right now. Jawad, you've given us your coach perspective. All right. I want to go back to Jawad, the fan now. What do you want to see from these guys over the next 5 games? And you can break that down into a game by game perspective. You can say, what you want to see them as a 5-game arc, but what are you looking for as a fan outside of just having them go out and win some freaking ball games? What do you want to see right now?
A sense of togetherness. I want to see the guys go out fighting. If you're going to go down fighting. There's nothing. You have nothing else to lose at this point. You know, worst case scenario, you lose a couple games at the end, and you're really on the bubble, and you leave it up into NCAA's hand to make a decision. But just play together, play hard, play smart, play together. The Carolina way, and if they do that for these next few games, they have a chance. Guys really have to step up. But we'll see what happens.
I lied to you. I'm gonna ask you one more before we let you go. NC State coming up tomorrow. Any old great NC State memories? And I know Tommy wants to talk to you probably about the environment over there, but do you have any potential NC State memories you wanna revisit?
I just remember our battles. Some of those guys Julius Hodge, for example, Ilian at the mall, we were all great friends. They used to come over and hang out with us in Chapel Hill. But we had real battles, and those battles lasted for a long time until the day we retired. Man, Ilian and I played against each other quite often in France, and Julius actually became my teammate when we were in France. Just the battles I had, individual battles I had with those guys. It was always fun, and it was real bragging rights going on during those games.
What was it like playing over there? People say that PNC is not really tough to play. That Reynolds back in the day was ridiculously tough. What was it like playing at NC State?
It was always a rude environment more than anything. I remember them throwing things at our bench and stuff like that. It was a rude environment. But at the end of the day, when you're playing against NC State, not really worried about the team so much. Just being honest. I mean, we weren't really worried about them. It was more so, let's go ahead and handle business and get back to Chapel Hill.
That dovetails nicely with, I think, what a lot of folks listening to this show think about the rivalry as well. So it's a lot of people listening to this will probably feel really vindicated to hear you say that. Jawad, we appreciate it, man. It's always good to talk to you. I appreciate you making time for us. And yeah, we'll get up sometime soon. Hopefully the rest of the season goes well for you over there, and we hope to connect with you whenever you get a chance after that.
Yes, sir. See you soon.
All right, brother. That's Jawad Williams. Coach Wad joining us here on Inside Carolina Live. We appreciate him making time for us on a Saturday morning.